centralization and cross-docking. If you've ever been in a warehouse and to watch how this works, it really is a joy to watch. It'd be a nightmare to coordinate if you're brand new at it. But the people that do that a lot of times, they've been around the business for a while, so they have a lot of experience. A lot of them start out basically from driving a high-low, and you also then you get promoted. Part of the cross-docking, though, is complex, and you have to sit down and pay attention to what load goes where. And nowadays, the technology sitting on your average forklift that the driver sits down and they'll say, go to this one over here, pick up this pallet, put it in bay number 6, put it in, and then the next one, bay number 9. And you can sit down and do that, and it's much more effective because the communication is clear because it's centralized. So on a decentralized system, each facility has the most effective strategy. You don't really care about the other facilities in the supply chain. So you have a decentralized way, and it really leads to local optimization because you don't have to articulate a whole series that you have. But in the centralized system, you have to have a central brain, okay, that looks over the entire supply network as to what's happening up and down the chain. Minimize the total cost of the system. You lead to global optimization because you articulate everything nonstop. It's at least as effective as a decentralized system, but you can also have a coordinated strategies. You can save time. You can actually speed up the lead time quite a bit if you have a centralized system because the system is talking all to itself because it is the system all by itself. So that the supply chain involves whether one or a few centrally located production facilities, you're looking at that, or warehousing facilities, you all have them talking to each other and being coordinated by one logistics company. You can either hire a company to do it, you can do it in-house, whatever you use. If you're talking up and down the supply chain, it can be fabulous in the process, but there's a tendency to always sit down and have the manufacturers articulating things in the process. Now they don't tell you that a lot in the textbook, except for the fact that ideally the situation is the retailers the one with the forecasting, not so much the manufacturer. It just depends where you're at, and also really how much the goods cost, and also the perishability. So perishability, you're much better off having a centralized facility. You always have to watch your safety stock. You always have to watch your overhead. The economies of scale plays a huge thing. You have this type of a system with high centralization a lot of times when you can drive economies of scale and also have perishable goods in the process. But no matter what happens, by centralization, you're going to reduce the lead time that you have. If you want to really focus in the aspect of risk pooling, it's better off with centralization in the process, and the shipping times tend to always be better with the local versus the other. So between the two, you have to focus in on that, and overall your transportation costs at the production facilities, you really, no matter what happens, that is higher with the facilities in the warehouse than with local. Cost from the warehouse to retailers is less with local, so you have the different variations on it, and all this you got to figure out and break it down by item, toss in your computer, and actually figure out what it is. A lot of times you're going to use the hybrid strategy. You're going to have some goods, because the economies of scale, they're going to come right through the manufacturing process, distribution, and right to the store. And then you also have another line, sometimes technically in the same supply chain, but a little bit different because you're going to be using a different aspect of it, because you can use a forecast developed by the retailer rather than a manufacturer. So you may have multiple strategies happening. We call that a hybrid decision because there's multiple strategies happening. Cross-docking, Walmart did it. Okay, they worked really well. The goods arrive at the warehouse from the manufacturer. They're transferred to vehicles serving the retailers. You may have a fleet of small trucks sitting down there. It looks like a bunch of flies all circling, whatever, grabbing things, stuffing it into their delivery vehicles, and they're off just delivering across the entire region. That is what really was popularized by Walmart. Goods to spend very little time in storage at the warehouse, if any time at all. If they spend time in the warehouse, the goal is less than 12 hours, or make certain they're on a truck before the shift ends is always the best way, and that way there doesn't have to be any coordination between them. A lot of things, you have to have a significant startup investment. Sometimes when you drive by a trucking facility, you'll see dozens of bays, 50, 60, 70, even over 100. Sometimes they're doing cross docking right there, or just depends what they're doing. They may allocate some for cross docking. Cross docking is highly efficient. It can get things moved quickly and reduce your lead time, and is especially effective when you're dealing with things that have economies of scale. Forecasts are critical. You have to share the information to do cross docking. It's not an option. If you're not going to share information, this option is not for you. Okay, they're effective for large distribution systems. You can't do it with a small store, a small manufacturer, or anything in the process. Cross docking, it's a lot of fun, it's efficient for speed, but can consume a lot of end user space or warehousing space. It just depends where it's out there. You have to pay more attention to the safety stock, overhead, economies of scale, and lead time all the time. So cross docking is highly effective, but it takes massive coordination, and it's going to have some space for maneuverability when you're unloading one truck and then refilling multiple trucks at the same site. Cross docking, it's great. Planning size is always the best factor to deal with cross docking. If you don't have it, this option may not be for you. Take care.